What's up, guys? It's Lord Botha here with another video, and I think we can all agree at this point, Star Wars is a dead franchise. But that's not stopping them from trying to shell out terrible project after terrible project at the whims and desires of Kathleen Kennedy. Sometimes I think they just announce stuff and like only 2 people know that this thing was happening. And everybody else in the company is just learning right there and then. And of course, one of those projects that they're still putting out is a little show called Andor. Now, if you never watched Andor, and according to the ratings, you'd be in the majority of people, it is a prequel series to a prequel movie in which you know the main character is gonna survive because he meets his end fate in the prequel movie Rogue One. Still, I mean, Star Wars is kind of known for its prequels, right? You could almost say they started that trend. So maybe there's still something they could do with it. And while not a lot of people actually tuned in for the series, the people who did tune in actually really liked the show. I mean, season 1 of Andor has positive ratings both among the critics and the audience. To be honest, it's probably the only thing that has that high a rating among the critics and the audience when it comes to Star Wars television. And for a while, we didn't think we were actually going to get Andor Season 2 because of the such low ratings. But because the show got such an overwhelmingly positive response, while other shows like The Acolyte got a fairly overwhelmingly negative response and did terrible in the ratings, though not as terrible as Andor, I think. And you have the whole mess that was Ahsoka. Apparently Disney decided, you know what? Let's give Andor another shot. At least the people who did watch this seemed to really like it and weren't just making fun of it the whole time. And there was something to that. From everything that I've seen of Andor and everything I've heard of Andor, Andor is what I always thought Star Wars should be. It was a more adult, cerebral idea of what Star Wars is. And we're going to get to that whole concept of Star Wars being a adult sci-fi fantasy show in just a second. Because there was a major controversy here in season 2 that just arose that definitely has people split, and the showrunner is probably not handling very well. We'll just introduce you to the subject here with this post on X from an account called Dreaming Tabitha, in which she states, "Nothing says Star Wars quite like attempted grape scenes and SA. Thanks, hashtag Andor." So yeah, apparently there is an attempted you-know-what scene and you-know-what kind of assault in the show as well. And this even had accounts like Star Wars Theory saying Star Wars is trying to be HBO now. So yeah, to say that this, kind of divided fans on their feelings of Star Wars, something they probably watched their entire life growing up, and now have this very raw, very real and horrific thing put into their show, yeah, it's probably a little dicey. Probably took people aback a little bit, especially when you consider certain facts that Tugs brings up here. The same people that have been screaming Star Wars is for kids at us for the last 10 years are now defending attempted SA and grape in Andor. That's all you need to know about the current Star Wars fan base. And she has a great point there. They just made a series, Skeleton Crew, which is all supposed to be about kids, right? It borrowed heavily from the aesthetic, the overall feeling of movies like The Goonies, and are all centered around kids and their adventure. And yes, they've been gaslighting us when we brought up certain, baseline scientific things, like fire shouldn't be flickering on a spaceship in space, stone walls don't just catch fire and then spread rapidly, dialogue shouldn't sound like it's written by a 5-year-old, and your main star should, be able to act a little bit? Give us more than one emote the entire show? And their response was always, "Oh, you're taking it too seriously. Star Wars is for kids." As if kids don't deserve the same respect to have good television that makes sense. But now they're saying with this, oh no, Star Wars is for the adults, apparently. Because I'm sure they're not trying to defend that, kids should be able to watch this, or that this whole subject matter is just okay to just generally put in a television show. Oh, wait. Yeah, they are. This comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter entitled, "Andor Creator Explains That Shocking Assault Scene," quote, "We're all the product of you know what." Basically, Tony Gilroy, the showrunner, tries to explain and justify the scene by saying this, quote, "I get one shot to tell everything I know, or can discover, or that I've learned about revolution, about battles, with many incidents and many colors as I can get in there, without having the story to tip over." I mean, let's be honest, man. The history of civilization, there's an arterial component of it that is, you know what. All of us who are here, we are all the product of that thing. I mean, armies and power throughout history have committed, you know what. So to not touch on it in some way, it just was organic and felt right, coming out as a power trip for this guy. I was really trying to make a path for Bix that would ultimately lead to clarity, but a difficult path to get back to clarity. Here's the thing. He's trying to use historical context here and use historical context as a reasoning for trying to put this in his show. And as somebody who got his degree in history, I can see where he's coming from. I can see he's trying to say, oh, well, evil armies and just armies in general have done this all throughout history. So why shouldn't we show this evil empire doing this evil act? The problem is he just doesn't get that there's certain things we can assume as the audience that don't have to be shown. This kind of goes into the whole argument that showrunners, directors, producers, everybody in the industry feels like they have to tell the audience everything instead of just assuming that the audience is smart, can be shown something or have something implied to them and they can just pick it up. In Empire Strikes Back, Han Solo is tortured by a torture machine. We are never actually seen the full extent of his torture in Cloud City, but we're shown just enough, just implications enough to know that something happened and he was tortured and it was probably really bad. We don't have to go into details. We don't have to be shown everything. Similarly, Leia goes through the same thing in Episode 4, A New Hope, when the little floating torture droid comes in with the little vial he's going to inject her. We're assumed that she's injected with something like truth serum or something like that she's probably tortured and interrogated, but we don't have to see it all. The implication is enough. At a very base level, you can compare this to, I don't know, taking a shit. We all know that people do it, alright? We all know and assume that these characters, at some point, probably do that normal human function. But guess what? No showrunner, no director, nobody in Star Wars history ever thought, you know what we need to do? We need to show a guy taking a dump on a spaceship. It's a far more common occurrence that happens probably both in the Star Wars world and throughout human history, right? But for some reason, nobody ever thought that needed to be shown, even though it's something obviously far less egregious than this, and far less disgusting and horrific as this. So yeah, this whole historical context argument is just, first of all, it's gross to try to be used in the first place, and secondly, it doesn't work. So far as well, Kathleen Kennedy herself has been pretty quiet on this whole controversy, but one thing she hasn't been quiet about is the fact that there's new rumors that she's supposed to leave Lucasfilm. Because about every 6 months, we go through a round of rumors that Kathleen Kennedy is leaving, stepping down, retired, whatever. And looks like we got another round of that. Because several outlets like Comic Book Movie here were putting out articles that stated things like Star Wars Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy could step down sooner than expected. In fact, August was the month that they were naming. And people were taking this one a little bit more serious just because of the nature of the source that was saying it. Because apparently in a report that didn't really have anything to do with this, Jeff Snyder, who is a well-known insider, right? He wrote, Kennedy may be poised to step down as head of Lucasfilm in August, but she won't be going too far away as she is expected to produce multiple Star Wars projects, including Kinberg's trilogy. Basically saying that she was going to do a Jennifer Salke, leave her current position, step down, and take a more creative role. And everybody ran with that, even Star Wars News Net here, until within like hours of that being out, the entire report was refuted, even though it came from a more trusted source this time. And this from Star Wars News Net, update, Kathleen Kennedy not stepping down in August. Since the posting of this article, it was brought to our attention that the news details provided below about Kathleen Kennedy's exit are incorrect. She will not be stepping down in August as previously reported. So there you go, folks. You got the trifecta. We just came off a horrible Star Wars Expo where a bunch more projects were announced that are either not going to happen or when they do happen, they're going to be terrible, driving the franchise even further into the ground than it already is. That was followed by a major controversy of a Star Wars show and culminating in new rumors about Kathleen Kennedy leaving Star Wars. Again, even though Kathleen Kennedy is never going to leave Star Wars, she is going to be there till she drops because Star Wars is Prometheus and she is the crow coming down every day to pick out its liver and destroy it again and again and again. But those are just my thoughts on all this. If you have your own thoughts, go and leave them in the comments. If you liked this video, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, appreciate you watching all of it, and we'll talk to you again later.